Hello and welcome to Justice Losers, the most unqualified podcast exploring irrelevant questions about entertainment. My name is Moscow Mule. Preston, joined as always by my delightful co-host,
Batman.
And joined, kind of the second time, I guess, by our lovely guest, Matthew Prellberg.
Are you hitting on him?
I'm back.
He's back. He hasn't left.
It's Robin Matt.
Robin Matt.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. He's an avid Dune lover, and so we decided to have him on. For the duration of this episode, I will refer to good old Matt, the original host, as Dalthorpe, his last name, and I will refer to Georgia Matt and or Matt 2.0 as Prellberg, his last name. Someone tell me what Dune is.
Dune is a book. It's a big, thick science fiction book.
It is a science, yes.
Yeah. It's been described as a mix of hard and soft sci-fi.
Let's just talk about the first chapter.
What's the first chapter?
That is... because that's the only chapter I completed. No, but I have read the whole book. Well, I was rereading this part for this episode for you guys to bring me in. I just really appreciated all the work he puts in that first chapter of like the groundwork of the world, establishing Paul as a character, kind of showing how sci-fi he is, with like the meditation sleep that he goes through, how spooky things are happening.
Yeah.
And just like there's a lot of work that's going in to that first chapter.
Right.
And I really appreciate it on a second reread.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Dune is about God. Wow,
it's so hard to narrow it down.
Explain Dune.
Maybe I should do this because I just read it.
Okay, so I want to shoot for it, and I want to see what happens.
I'll fill in the gaps.
So it's a young heir to a royal house of a distant future galactic empire, and this family acquires, basically, I think, the planet that is the only planet that produces a very valuable material that basically makes the empire run. And so he goes there with his family. And
I should point out, it's not acquired. They are compelled by the Emperor to trade planets with the Harkonnens.
Okay.
Thank you, Matt.
So he still acquired the planet.
Yes, they do acquire the planet. It is, in nominal terms, a gain, because Arrakis, the planet with the spice, the valuable substance, is very rich in the thing that everyone wants.
The thing that everyone wants. And he, as the heir to the empire, goes through... I mean, it's at this point, going through the story would be spoiling things. So, must earn the respect and the loyalty of the natives to the planet, while some really fancy Game of Thrones level shit is going on.
Yep. It's not a spoiler to say that the Harkonnens and the Atreides, the main characters, the quote-unquote good guys of the story, don't get along very well. Starks and Lannisters, if you will.
They don't like each other.
Yep.
Very much, yeah.
Yeah. Baggins and Sackville Bagginses.
Ooh.
I would like to approach the setting.
Yes.
Okay.
Preston has laid the groundwork. The setting of Dune is one of the most incredible things to me. It's just how, he is credited as being one of the greatest sci-fi writers of our time, of that era, and probably still kind of ever.
Sure.
Because of his setting and the intricacy, but the classic of just show, don't tell.
Yep.
You can piece together so much of the history of this world that he's made from just snippets of dialogue.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then they all start to add up into this really rich backstory that is completely it is literally the backdrop of the main setting of the story.
Yeah.
And that setting occurs in an intergalactic empire ruled by kind of a quasi
Feudal?
what's the word? Feudal, thank you. System with the emperor at the top, and then these minor houses that kind of have coalesced together. They have checks on the emperor, but they kind of all have to listen to him and his the emperor's will.
It is a fantastic book. Just concept of there's so much time he spent creating the universe that is not put explicitly in the book. And you can feel that. You can read it and you get the information you need at every point.
Yep.
Going through it, you see these pieces come together as you're reading, rather than sitting there with a giant hole in understanding what's going on for it to be filled in.
He is an expert at revisiting topics too.
Yeah.
He'll give you these nuggets but he'll space them out.
Yeah.
He's not an exposition dump. He's not like this, let's go into this flashback and explain things. He'll drop this is what a mentat is. This is why they exist, remember, because of the machine war. And then that will come back later.
Yeah.
And then it'll come back later.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so you kind of get to piece it together. And then on a reread, you get more out of it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it all fits back together.
I gotta read it again.
It's a really easy trap for a bad writer to fall into, to just introduce new ideas as you need them and as they come up.
Yeah.
You can even do it effectively, like Frank Herbert's style, where they're just in the background and you get enough as you can by context. But Frank Herbert, like you're talking about, the setting, the world building, he wrote an entire coherent world, and he just gives you the little nuggets as they organically come up.
Yeah. So that's Dune.
That's the basics of Dune.
That's the basics of Dune. That is the,
very coarse.
There's so much
stuff.
more. Yeah.
Very basics.
So in this edition, there's an afterword by Brian Herbert, Frank's son.
Yes.
Where he talks about the book a little bit. And one of the things that he talks about his father talking about with the book is that you can read it 4 or 5 different times, aiming for a different layer each time and get something new out of it. Because the book it's not just its story, one story. There is a Game of Thrones style feudal politics story, which dominates a lot of it. There is a sort of messianic religious story with some spiritual elements that's thinking about some interesting philosophical things and all of the drugs that Frank Herbert was doing in the 60s. There is a sort of a sociological level where he's thinking about the Fremen, the indigenous population of Arrakis, and their relationships to their environment and the relationships to outsiders and how people interact with the systems that are around them. There's a purely ecological level. The book was in part inspired by an article he started writing about a program in Oregon to plant grass on sand dunes that were by the highway to keep the dunes from spreading over the highway.
And Oregon is still trying to undo those grass plantings.
Go Oregon. So there's these massive layers of things, and each one has interesting ideas and interesting stories to tell.
Yeah.
Let's take this discussion in another direction. Why are we talking about Dune in the first place right now?
There's a movie coming out.
Yeah, there is.
Are we hyped for the movie?
I am. Okay.
How Dune are you for Dune?
I'm so Dune for Dune. What's actually interesting is so I didn't read Dune until after the trailer came out. And what I did, which was kind of fun for me, is every few chapters I would go back and rewatch the trailer. I can recite the entire trailer for you because I've seen it so many times. And what makes me excited about this is the fact that Denis Villeneuve is going to put
Villeneuve.
Denis Villeneuve put so much effort and loyalty into his movie because there is one particular shot that it stuck out to me so strongly. If you watch the trailer, if you're listening or watching, pause, go back, watch the trailer right now.
Do it.
Give you a second.
Dune it.
There's a shot of palm trees on fire. It's just one shot. And in the book, there is one sentence that describes the orange glow of the horizon from the burning palm trees.
Mm-hmm.
One sentence. And it's in the movie. Like, you can just, that one shot and that one sentence shows how much loyalty he's putting out. He's read this freaking book.
This is a book that has been described before as unfilmable, despite this being the fourth attempted adaptation that's been high enough profile to really garner attention. So I think one thing is just the complexity, as Mr. Prellberg pointed out.
Yep.
It's 5 or 6 different layers smushed on top of each other over 800 pages.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on there. One thing Villeneuve's doing to address this is he's making 2 movies.
Yep.
That's the hope, at least.
Yeah. So
seems like cheating, but I'm for it.
Well, so what's gonna happen basically is like this movie is roughly the first half, a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And he has been working on the script for the second half.
Mm-hmm.
Because he feels very confident. You can't pull off Dune in one movie.
No.
I mean, like, look at how fat that book is.
It is 2 Lord of the Rings.
And so it's 2 movies. And
it's going to be 2 long movies. And I think that's the appropriate way to handle it. I don't see a way to tell this story in even 3 hours in and out.
We talked a lot about effects, but we barely talked about story. And like how this story is so deep, it's really hard to cut out any of the story or like narrative in general that like without losing substance.
Such a great point, Preston. So many moving pieces that to lose one cuts like nuance out of the rest of the entire book.
Yeah,
exactly.
And so like it's not a Harry Potter Order of the Phoenix where you can just cut out 3/4 of the book and still have a sustainable movie.
I want to address one other thing on the unfilmable thing first. And this is my biggest worry with this movie. So much of the action and the tension and the themes is entirely internal. Internal monologues, little subtle cues in character dialogue that is explained in the character's actual thoughts. The sort of things that are really hard to capture.
The whole Dune equivalent to the Force is an internal thought thing. It's literally being able to read people and their eye movements, their body language.
Yep.
How do you convey that in a visual format?
Overacting.
I think you need really good actors.
You need really good actors, and you need fantastic cinematography and directing to be able to draw attention to it without like zooming in on an eyeball with its like pupils dilating,
right,
and it being really cheesy. I don't know. Honestly, that's the one thing that makes me nervous about this movie is, can they do that?
I think this is a problem that any movie that's based off of great books suffers from, is that there's a layer that the fans expect of matching up with the book. And I think what they need to do is they need to tell the full story of Dune on its own for a person who's never read the books to see it and enjoy the film. But they also need to do a good job of incorporating those subtler things for the fans that have read the books to enjoy it and say, oh, I know what's going on.
Right.
It's a difficult line to walk.
It is.
So, do they going to need a bunch of monologues or those zoom ups of the irises? Maybe here and there they might need that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's probably ways to do it tastefully. I worry about it because one of the beautiful things about the book is it puts you in the headspace of characters who are not just super intelligent, but like super intelligent and able to super well trained and have like sort of latent special abilities. And it puts you in their headspace really effectively. Like throwing all the variables at you.
Yeah.
And that's a really hard thing to convey in film.
Yeah. We don't know, I don't know, how long he's been working on this script. It could be 10 years of like, how do I take this and put it into a movie? And that might have been what it took to like make a competent adaptation of this book. It's, and like, part of me wants to say just like, even if you watch the movie and it doesn't turn out good, read the book because the book will do it better.
Yep.
I'm excited and interested to see how he does it. I'm not even worried because I feel like I trust him enough because I love 2049 so much. I have a little bit of a blind trust for him to do a good movie, a good sci-fi movie that tells a full story and has nuance, even if it cuts out some, like a couple of the deep levels of Dune.
Sure.
I still feel like it's going to be a genuinely great movie.
Hey everyone, Matt here. Hope you've been enjoying this video. If you want to hear the fuller version of this discussion, you can find that on our audio-only podcast. That's going to be wherever you listen to your podcasts, be it SoundCloud or Spotify or iTunes or iHeartRadio. Appreciate you watching this far, and we hope you listen on further.